Well, 2023 has come and gone. Super quick, though. Oh well. Anyway, that means it is time for me to list off the best movies and the worst movies of the year, in my opinion. So, we're going to talk about the worst movies first. Now, I only have a couple because I really didn't watch any bad movies this year. Or movies that I would put in a worst of list to make a full list of it. So that's why it's pretty much just like, here you go. So I have 4 movies that I would consider to be, middle of the road. 3 of them I put in a disappointment kind of thing, or disappointing, where it's like, okay, I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it either, kind of thing, where it's like, they're fine. And then 1 movie that is here, I absolutely think is the worst film of the year. Hands down. Like, once I watched it, I went, this is the worst thing I've seen this year. And another thing before we continue is with that worst movie, I think one of the honorable mentions, because I do have some of those as well, and then I think it was 3-ish. I think it's 3 or 4, something like that. I think 4. Or something like that, like 3 to 5. 3 to 5 movies on my top 15 list that I have not reviewed yet. So that's because a lot of those I watched very last minute, and yeah, it's just time got away. But I'll get to those eventually. So right now, let's just talk about the disappointment movies of the year. Like I said, there's 3 of them here, and then 1 movie that I think is the absolute worst film of the year. So the first that I put in my disappointment one is
Robbie, go! Where to? Why do I always get the weirdos?
Five Nights at Freddy's. All right, I gotta talk about this one. All right, so in my original review for this, I did say it was a movie for the fans, and it is. Now, I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't really like it either. But then at the same time, I didn't hate it. It's in that middle of the road. Now, the things that I liked, Jim Henson Company, the way they were able to basically make almost like a 3D and live action version of the animatronics, like right down to the bone or down to the endoskeleton, was very cool. That was awesome. Now, I hated the characters. The script sucked. And another thing about this is that if you don't know the FNaF lore or the story, or if you do know them, this is very predictable. It wasn't. I was expecting it to be kind of like what the HBO Last of Us series was, where I played the game, so I pretty much knew what was going to happen, but they still threw a whole bunch of curveballs around and some changes that were actually pretty big. And when those curveballs hit me, it was like, wow, that was I was not expecting that. That was amazing. This movie doesn't do that. It feels very predictable, especially if you watch the movies, or if you watch if you know the story and the history and lore. So this felt very predictable. But at the end of the day, is it a bad movie? No. Is it a great movie? Not really. So that's why it's on a disappointment list. Okay. Next movie is...
We have to stop him before sunset.
I am enough. I deserve happiness, and I take full charge of my life tonight.
You know when something crazy happens and someone's like, it's okay, I've seen way worse. Everything I saw you do today is gonna be my way worse.
It's my least favorite part of the job.
Renfield. All right. So this movie, I mean, I enjoyed it, but at the same time, there was a lot in it that I'm like, yeah, they could have done this a bit better. I would have liked to see more of this, more of this. The positives. Nicolas Cage was awesome as Dracula. He really was. I thought he was great. Nicholas Hoult, I think, was really good as well. With Awkwafina, she wasn't as annoying as I thought she was going to be, mainly because she kind of reminds me of almost like James Corden, where he was in everything, and I didn't know why. She's kind of the same way with me, where I'm just like, why are you in like everything now? And I'm like, I just don't care about you. So she wasn't as annoying as I thought she was going to be. So, you know, good job. But at the end of the day, you know, I really wish the movie did a little bit more. It was pretty short, so I'm going like, okay, I wanted to see more of this. I wanted to see more of this. I know a lot of people disliked the ending. I didn't care. I was going like, all right, it just makes sense. And then the fact that, you know, Universal comes out with 2 Dracula films in 1 year, which we may or may not talk about the other one later. But yeah, it's just like, I don't mind a comedy edge to Dracula, you know, like Love at First Bite did it, and I really enjoyed that film. But with this one, it felt to me that it felt like they had a grape, and then they were slowly like sucking it dry, but then somebody quickly came along and sucked it all real quick, and they're like, oh, we now have a raisin. Okay, does anybody have another grape? No, we don't. Great, so we just have to go with this now. It kind of felt like that, where it's just like, okay, you kind of spent all this time just doing this, to then it's just like, okay, you know, just, it feels very hollow. I wish there was a bit more, but at the end of the day, it was an entertaining movie, and I think it will become a cult classic in the future, because it did bomb. So, we'll see. But next movie is a movie that is probably going to be on everybody's worst of list this year, and that is...
What did you do?
Is that Catherine's heartbeat? They're beating in sync.
God played a trick on you. The Exorcist Believer. All right. I gotta talk about this one. Okay. Do I think this movie is one of the worst of the year? No. Is it one of the most miscalculated and disappointing? Yes. So I personally am kind of in the boat where if you're going to make a sequel off of The Exorcist, you need to do it in a certain, like, clever way. Like, I think, like, the first season of The Exorcist show that I think was on Fox a couple years ago, that I think was a very, very good sequel. And because the beauty of it was that the first half of it, you didn't know anything, so you thought it was its own thing, and then it steers around halfway through and is like, oh no, it's actually a continuation. Oh, that's so cool. So it's just, you know, that version I think was really cool. This one felt like they had a concept and just went, okay, what about like this and then this and then this, and just went, oh, screw it, let's just go, let's do it. Now, the things I liked, them bringing back Ellen Burstyn was cool. What they ended up doing was not cool. It felt like, wow, you brought her back just to do this? Like, wow, you just suck. I did like that it was two exorcisms going on at the same time. So the stakes felt a little bit higher. But then at the same time, when you go back and watch the original movie, the stakes in that, even though it was one exorcism, the stakes were so high because they were showing you all these like crazy stuff that was happening. And it's just like, oh my God, this is just insane. This, not really. And it was very disappointing. Characters, didn't really care for them. The ending was kind of like okay, like, I don't understand why, though, but, whatever. And, it felt like, it felt very just hollow. It felt kind of like they were building a cake, and then they put it in the oven, and then, you put a cake in for like, say you put the cake in for like 30 minutes, and then 15 minutes go by, and you're just like, screw it, take it out, I'm hungry. So it's like all like still, it's not ready yet. That feels like this, where it's like, okay, I liked what they did with this, but at the end of the day, this was quite a disappointment. And I know a lot of people are putting this on the worst of the year. Do I think it's one of the worst? No. Is it one of the most disappointing? Absolutely. So those are my 3 disappointments. Now, I get to the worst movie of the year, according to me. Once I watched this one, I knew instantly that it was going to be the number 1 worst movie of the year. That movie is...
We used to be friends. Why are you doing this, please? I would have never left, I swear.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Oh my God, was this the worst? Okay, so a little bit of backstory to this. I didn't see this when it was released in theaters, but I was hearing a lot of people saying that this is one of the worst films of the year. And then after I watched it, I saw everybody putting it on their worst of, and even some people were putting it on the worst films of all time. And I'm like, whoa, like, okay, then, jeez. And will I say this? Do I think it's one of the worst films of all time? You're gonna have to probably brief me on a lot of bad movies that I may just go like, yes, that was one of the worst of all time. But is it the worst film of the year? Absolutely. Like, hands down. I mean, oh my God. I mean, the story was stupid. I thought it was going to go one way and then ended up going another. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes like no sense. This movie doesn't make sense. You don't care for the characters. You are just puzzled at why would they do something like this? And, from an editing standpoint, it sucks. It was probably edited by Edward Scissorhands because of how much it sucks. And it's just, I can't explain it. Like, this was just abysmal. It was repulsive. I couldn't understand why they did this and why they're doing another one. And it's coming out apparently next year. And I'm just like, it's coming out 2024. And I'm just like, I don't understand why. Like, you are regarded as one of the worst films of the year. You are regarded as one of the worst films ever. and yet you're still making another one, that just proves that you're slapping the audience in the face. So screw you and screw your movie. So Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, absolutely the worst film of the year. Hands down. So, now that we're done with that, we're done with the disappointing and worst of. Now, we get to go to the best ones, for me. Now, I have about 8 honorable mentions. I originally had about, I think like 10, but then I cut 2 off because I was just like, yeah, actually, no, get rid of those. Get rid of those. So, I know a lot of, so I'm just going to again, get it out in the open. The honorable mentions and my top 15 list is what I think. It's what I think. And like I said, there's a couple movies, one movie on my honorable mention that I have not reviewed yet, or 2 that I haven't reviewed yet, and then 3 to 5 on my main list that I haven't reviewed because I watched those very last minute. So, I'll get to those eventually. But now we're in the honorable mentions. And the first honorable mention is
Take care of her.
I promise.
Seatbelts.
The creator. Wow, was this movie good. This movie was really good, but I wish I could have put it in my top 15. It probably was maybe second or third in line to them becoming in my best of. But at the end of it all, I was like, okay, it's a concept that we've basically been accustomed to now, and it's kind of become a cliche, especially in the last 10 years. So it's kind of like, all right, I get it. It's, robots and artificial intelligence gone wrong, or they're going against the programming. I get it. We've seen this before. But this movie manages to do that in a pretty interesting way, and was generally surprised that, wow, okay, you actually, didn't just copy and paste it, but you did do a great job with it. Now, from a budget standpoint, I'm surprised the movie cost I forget what the budget was, but it was pretty small for a big movie like this. And it was wow, that's just incredible. So, great job. I think Gareth Edwards, is a great director. I still love Rogue One, and this does kind of have a hint of that in this, but they basically say hey, this is dark. If you look at it through a lens, this is dark. This is a dark story. So it felt very much like District 9, but I think District 9, I think that movie's better than this. But at the end of the day, The Creator was a pretty good movie, but just not one that I would put on my top 15, right? Because it got bumped off. So, next honorable mention is
Where did you get those tapes?
You saw what's on them.
VHS 85. All right. So if you don't know me, or if you haven't checked out the channel for a bit, I'm a big fan of the VHS series. I think it's a completely underrated series. And I was really excited to watch this one. And it did not disappoint. Now, do I think this film is one of the best ones in the series? You know, I would say it's probably up there. I still think, you know, my favorite of the series is still the second one. But I would say, like, you know what? I think this would probably place second. Yeah, second in line. So, like, I like the second one and then this one. Now, I liked most of the movie except for one of the segments, because it felt very, like pandering to get a certain time length. And it's like, okay, can we speed it up here? But I did like the concepts. You know, the stories were really good. I think they were all well directed. And the fact that they basically said, oh yeah, we're making another one, like right after this one came out, was like, all right, that's cool. I'm not fighting against that. I'll take more VHS movies any day. Because that's what I love about the series, is that they're anthologies, so it gives a whole bunch of different directors the opportunity to make their own thing. And that's just what I love. And so I think that this one, while it's an honorable mention, I still thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was a fun, you know, fun, gory film. And yeah, there were a few surprises along the way that I was like, wow, that actually was great. That caught me off guard. Great job. So yeah, it's just, I don't think it's good enough to be in my top 15, but it is an honorable mention. Next honorable mention is
that woman called the spirits, and they answered. You saw what I saw.
For once in your life, admit that you are up against something bigger than you.
Tonight, we are all afraid. We cannot hide from our ghosts.
A Haunting in Venice. Now, when it came to this one, I was very, heads or tails with it, mainly because the other two, which was Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, while I think Orient Express was good, Death on the Nile I think was a bit disappointing. It was just like, wow, this is what you did? Okay, great. This one takes it, a step back and goes like, hey, let's create a legit mystery, but let's bring some horror elements into it. And was this movie scary? If you're an average watcher of horror, no. This is kind of like, a child's play. This is like easy. So, but because it's more focused on the mystery, which, the mystery kept me engaged. It kept me going. So I do applaud the movie for that. Is it freaky? There are a couple of moments, but at the end of the day, I was like, this isn't like really freaking me out. So, whatever. But I still liked what they did. And, as much as I was looking through the list and going like which ones to pick out, this one just stayed at honorable mention and just would not budge. Because it was just like, all right, well, I liked it, but, compared to all these other ones, no. So, yeah. So, Haunting in Venice, I liked it, but Didn't love it. Next honorable mention is...
Hold on, buddy! Oh, wow, your balls look huge from this angle.
Thank you, but holy...
That is the craziest thing I have ever seen. And I'm Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Quaid has seen some
Strays. All right. Now, people have easily said that this movie can be like a one-trick pony. And it is for most of it. But there are parts of this that legitimately caught me off guard. Either it made me laugh, or it was part of the story where I was like, wow, that actually was a lot deeper than I thought this movie would ever go. Because on the surface, you look at it, it's like, all right, it's a bunch of, funny people whose voices are coming out of live action dogs, and they're just talking about, they're just swearing, and then, like that. That's pretty much it. But when you actually watch it, yes, there are those things, but there are some moments in there that caught me off guard, where I went, wow, that I was not expecting a movie like this to do that, or this movie to specifically do that. And it was like, wow, all right. So this is actually a lot deeper than I thought. It wasn't just them going, hey, it'll be funny. Because there is a lot of that in this movie where I'm sure they were in the writer's room going, hey, what would be funny? Like, hey, let's just, keep firing jokes at the screen and see if it sticks. And some of it does stick, but it then decides to take a step back and go like, okay, let's stop the jokes. Let's actually add like some drama into this. And, some possibly emotional parts. And no, the movie's not emotional in the slightest, but there is one part of the movie where you do feel really bad for some of the dogs, and it was like, oh my god, like that just sucks. So, Strays, while yes, you can look at it like it's a one trick pony, there's actually some deeper meaning into it. But it was, once I went back and looked at my list, I was going, yeah, this just stays an honorable. Because, yeah, it stays there. It's a good boy, but you need to just stay there. So, but next honorable mention is...
You think he did something to her? You're going through Kevin's email? You need to let the police handle this.
I tried, but we're running out of time.
Who are these people? This woman calls him Darren.
You weren't gonna tell me my mom was dating a felon?
You need to trust me on this. Shocking new footage has leaked online. I have some questions regarding something we're looking into. Has your mom ever gone by any of their names?
What?
The strangest case I've ever seen.
There may be more than meets the eye.
There are some legit questions.
Hey, Junebug. There's actually a lot I want to talk with you about.
Oh my god, someone's here.
Missing. One of the movies that I wasn't planning to watch this year, but ended up seeing it and was really surprising. Now, I still haven't seen the previous movie to this, which was Searching. And I was kind of going like, all right, it's the same kind of structure. But went into it completely blind, and it was like, wow, this was actually a lot better and more thought out than I thought it was going to be. And was surprising. And there were parts in there that were like legit like, oh my god, like that's crazy. Like those type of moments. Like especially when the third act hits, it's just like, wow. Well, stakes are higher. And it's, especially if a movie can be something where it's like, okay, it's a movie I kind of want to check out, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't really have the urge to go and see it in the theater. And I did see this in the theater, and, if you missed it in the theater, you're really not missing out on a whole lot. But it is a great, title to watch at home, especially if you, have some, friends over, and you want to watch pretty much a suspenseful, like a suspenseful drama, but also it's a race against the clock type thing, where it's like you really only have a certain amount of time to figure this stuff out, so you have to kind of be on your feet. And this movie does that, and it does it very well. I mean, the acting is very believable. The fact that it's all on one computer screen, great. And, a movie that I was kind of iffy about seeing anyway turned me around on it. Very surprising, but was still like, yeah, okay, it's honorable. So, yeah. Right. Next honorable mention.
Shoot it, man! Best speed up! Get higher, baby, and don't ever come down.
Come on. Shh, come on. We have such good luck in nature.
Cocaine Bear, and no, I'm not on drugs when putting this on honorable mention. You should probably just be lucky it's on honorable and it's not actually on my list, because at the end of the day, this is a fun, dumb party movie. It's a movie that you see the title and you're like, all right, it's 90 minutes of this. Like, I'm in for it. It's exactly what it is. There is no plot. They try to throw some plot in there, but I'm at the end of it, I was just going like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care about that plot. You just wanted to see a black bear hopped up on cocaine, just murdering people for 90 minutes. That's all you wanted to see, and it's just like, that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. And you could also say this could be like a one trick thing, or it's like, just like overly used, but they don't care. They don't care. And at the end of it all, it's a fun, dumb party movie. It's a movie where you can watch it with a whole bunch of friends, like almost like a beer and pizza night kind of thing. Put this on, you'll have a great time watching it. And, the movie gets an extra plus for putting in Depeche Mode. That gets an extra plus, and especially since they put Depeche Mode song in, I think, what is the best scene in the movie, revolving an ambulance chase. It was great. I loved it. I loved it. It was awesome. So they get extra points for that. But no, this is not one of the absolute best movies of the year. It's exactly what it is. It's a party movie. So they knew exactly what they're doing. They're not trying to be like, put a wall over your eyes and go like, people are like, this has no story. It's just like, look at the title and then come back to me. That's exactly what this movie is. All right. Next honorable mention. Skinamarink. All right. Now, I gotta talk about this one. This is probably the controversial one on my honorable mention. Originally, this was on my top 15 list. But then, after, reviewing it over and over again, and then, some other movies coming in, it was just like, it got knocked to honorable. I do understand why people don't like this movie. I do get it. But to me, I liked most of it. I really wish the pacing was a bit faster, and also the movie was a bit, cut down. I mean, the movie's like an hour and 40 minutes long. It's just like, no, it doesn't need to be that long. I'd say maybe hour and 20, hour and 30, and we'd be good to go. We'd be okay. But, there's not a whole lot of information. It's the show don't tell, which I liked. I liked how they're showing you stuff, and you kind of have to piece it together yourself. So I was liking that. And it's very atmospheric. And, you know what? I enjoyed that. I really did. So, but, I do understand, like, a lot of people said, like, oh, this is not a movie. And, like, I'll fight you, but at the same time, I won't, because I see your point. It's one of those, like, if you like it and people don't like it, I'm not gonna, like, challenge you to a duel and say, like, yeah, you're wrong. It's just like, I see your point. Like, I get it. So, oh well. But there were parts of the movie that legitimately did freak me out. Mainly that stupid telephone toy. I will never look at that thing the same way again. So, thanks, movie. Thanks, Skinamarink. Now, next up, the last honorable mention is...
It's the thing that comes for your kids when you're not paying attention.
Dad, you have to listen to me.
Okay. I'm listening. Sweetheart, let me handle it.
The Boogeyman from Stephen King. Okay, so this movie, when it came out, I was kind of going like, okay, maybe this will be good. And it caught me off guard on how good it was. And this is from the same director as Host and Dashcam. Two pretty much found footage movies, where Host, I really like that one. Dashcam, liked everything except the main character. And I'm like, you guys keeping her alive at the end of the movie, terrible mistake. Terrible mistake. But anyway, this is his first actual film, a movie that's actually shot like a movie. And I was kind of curious to see what they were going to do. And wow, they did a really interesting and good job with this. Like, it was a surprise for me this year. This year was filled with surprises. This is one of them. But at the end of it, it wasn't like, wow, would I rush out to watch this again? I mean, not really. It would probably be one of those movies where I would kind of forget I did see it. And then, a couple years down the line, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's right, that movie. This is kind of that movie, because it did kind of go underground. It is kind of an underrated gem. And it was a fun, interesting movie. It was a very cool, clever, and I liked it. I liked the movie. I did. But at the end of the day, it was just like, okay, yeah, it's honorable. So, those are my 8 honorable mentions. The other 2 that I did kick off was Sisu, and this one called Malum. And, Malum I liked, but, didn't love it. Sisu, I liked it, but there was so much more that I wish they could have done, and I wish the pacing was a bit better, and I wish that it didn't feel so long, and yeah, just, but now, we're now on to the top 15. So my number 15, I know, is probably going to be maybe the controversial one. I'm not too sure. I always have to have one that is probably controversial, meaning like really you put that on your best of. It may come right now, it may come a little bit later in the list, but yeah. So my number 15 is...
He's coming!
Did you see the size of that bloody thing?
I want to kill the cursed thing.
He is on this ship, which means that we will never leave it.
The devil is real. May God have mercy on us all.
Remember how I mentioned when I talked about Renfield that the other one may pop up? Well, here it is. All right, The Last Voyage of the Domor. So this is on the list because one, it's a bottle film. I like how it's just in one location. Yes, you don't really care for a lot of the people, but that's the whole point of this, is especially the fact that the movie is called The Last Voyage of the Domor. You kind of are piecing it together before you go see the movie, like, yeah, everyone is screwed. So it's like, okay. And they knew exactly what they were making with this movie. They knew exactly what they were doing. And so, I'm not looking for big plot points. I'm not looking for, like, incredible dialogue or anything like that. The movie knows exactly what it's doing. It knows exactly what it's trying to be. It's trying to be a genre film. And if you look at it like that and you go into it like that, I think you would have a good time. And that's what I did. So, and it is a very fun, very fun splatter monster movie. And like I said with Renfield was more of a comedy. This is actually more of a horror. Like, it's trying to be like a survival horror movie. And I think it succeeded. Personally, to me, I think it succeeded. So I liked it enough to be on the list. And, I think it will be a definite cult classic in the future, because this movie did bomb big time. And I think it's a fun movie. If you don't go into it with a whole lot of, like, brain activity and you recognize the movie is trying to be a genre film, I think you would like it and you would get a kick out of it. So that's why Domor is number 15, where it's like tinkering on the edge of being honorable mention. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? But it was fun. It was a fun movie. So that's why it's number 15. All right. Next movie on number 14 is a movie that I watched very last minute. Like, I watched it a couple of days before putting this list together. So it was very last minute. And actually, there were 3 movies on this list that I actually watched around the same time. So we'll get to those. We'll get to those eventually. But yeah, this one was one of them. And that movie is...
None of our lives can matter more than this mission.
I don't accept that.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So I watched this movie very last minute. Like, it was like a couple of days before I put this list together. And I will say this. It does keep the series, the main point of the series is honestly to watch the action. Stories, not really. They do try to put a story in there. I mean, I think I read somewhere that they think of the action set pieces first and then build a story around that. And in some cases, I'm like, oh, it shows. And, you know, I don't think the set pieces in this one were as good as, say, the last movie, which was Fallout. I didn't enjoy this movie as much as Fallout, but I did enjoy it. I wanted to love it, especially on the high of Fallout, but it was like, okay, all right, this is cool. The action set pieces are still amazing. It's like they keep trying to top themselves. While I think this one kind of like doesn't top the last film, it's kind of like maybe a little notch below, but it's around that same like area where it's just like, hey, but I'm not complaining. Like, it's still incredible to watch. The story, it really does, like I talked about with Creator, it kind of does something where it's like, all right, we've been over this numerous times, but it's just like, okay, we know that, you know, the series is over the top. We understand that, you know, the team would probably, or not probably, most likely fail if they didn't have the masks. And they're just like, hey, let's just play up to that. You know, people know exactly why they're here. They want to see the action set pieces. They want to see Tom Cruise, be absolutely insane in doing these things. So it is a fun movie. It actually was almost an honorable mention, but then at the end of it, I was like, you know what? It's fun. It's a fun movie. So I enjoyed it enough to be put on the list. Okay. Number 13 is a movie that I watched, I think back in November, and just didn't get a chance to review it. That movie is...
What is that? The banging.
Enough! You don't hear anything, Peter.
You have a beautiful imagination. It's going to get you into trouble one day.
Cobweb. I was looking forward to this movie when I saw the trailer for it, and then was trying to find where it was playing, and then found out that Lionsgate basically shot this movie in the foot and said, oh, we're only doing a limited theatrical run. I'm like, so you don't want this movie to make money. But not only that, they decided to release it around the same time as like Barbie and Oppenheimer, and I'm like, that's a bad call. So I think Lionsgate purposely shot this thing in the foot, which really sucks because this movie was really good. And yeah, it kept me on my toes. And, you know, both the performances of Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr, I think were great. Lizzie Kaplan, I know it's done like some like horror things here and there, like Cloverfield, but this one she really shines. Like, she can actually play a pretty scary person. And then Anthony Starr, if you ever watch The Boys, you know how freaky he is. And the movie keeps up a mystery going, and then by the third act, they just go, let's just go insane. And it does. It really does. So, yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed the movie. The fact that it was like 90 minutes kind of had me concerned a little bit, because I was like, oh, it's only 90 minutes? I expect this thing to be like almost like 2 hours, like The Conjuring. But no, they know exactly how long this should be. The script is so tight. The acting is so good. It knows exactly how to be a movie like this. It knows exactly what to do. It knows how to do it, and it does it really, really well. And not really a big surprise for me, because I kept hearing people talking about how good this was, and just from the trailer alone, I was like, I'm sold. Like, this looks really good. And it really sucks that this movie is not getting a whole lot of praise, and some people are saying like, oh, it's not that good. It's like, yeah, go away. You know, personally, I think this is a really good movie, and it's a really good suspenseful film. If you want a movie to keep you on your toes while watching it, this is one. All right, number 12. Number 12 is going to be a movie that a lot of people are going to be kind of shaking my head or like tilting their heads and just kind of looking at me like, are you serious? And, well, honestly, number 12 and 11, but right now, number 12. Number 12 is...
I have a new primary user now. Me. Did Megan do something bad?
What's going on? What are you?
I'm Megan.
Baby, don't provoke us or we will.
Megan. All right. To be honest, every time when I think about this movie, I always think of Drake and Josh. Just, you know, reasons. But this movie makes the list because when I saw the trailer, I thought this was going to be bad. I thought it was going to be a stupid movie that they were being fun with. And it does have those quirks to it. They know exactly, they understand that the whole like living doll or animatronic kind of thing, it has been overused to hell. They know it has. So they're playing up against that. They're playing with it, going like, look, we know. It's been done numerous times. We know. So let's have some fun with this. And they do. They do not take this seriously. And that's actually part of the charm of it. This has a mild charm to it that I was like, wow, okay, that was actually pretty fun. And I did watch the it was the unrated version. The unrated version should have been the rated version. I mean, looking at both versions, I'm just like, the unrated has like maybe a couple of seconds cut, and it's honestly not that bad. It could have been like exactly what the movie is like a PG-13. It could have been like a hard PG-13, and it still would have been fine. So I didn't get why they did it, why they cut it down, because it was like, really, I've seen PG-13 movies more gory than this, and the fact they were the same rating was just mind-boggling. But at the end of the day, this was a fun, clever movie. It has a mild charm to it that I wasn't expecting it to have. And then I think one of the negative things I can say about the movie was that it was over marketed. It was marketed way too heavy. I mean, from the fact that the dance became a meme, and then the studio actually sent out dancers dressed as Megan to start dancing everywhere. It's just like, okay, don't do that. Just don't do that. I think if the studio is going to do something like that, it's basically like, all right, it's dead. Knock it off. Okay, number 11. Number 11 is going to be kind of like a, are you serious kind of movie? But another movie that I watched very last minute. And when I watched it, I was generally surprised on how much I actually liked it and how much I was laughing during it. That movie is...
There's a crazy person out here hunting us. You got Rosa Parks on your shirt, right? Would she be sitting down right now?
I mean, that's exactly what she did.
You could shut up. Made you look. Made you look.
Why black women gotta save everyone all the damn time?
Made you look.
Yo, stop playing.
I got a gun.
That's too DMX. What are you doing?
The Blackening. So, on the surface, from the director, I went, I'm not too sure about this one, because it's directed by Tim Story, who did, like, you know, Barbershop. But then he did, you know, Fantastic Four, and then my most hated film of the year came out, the Tom and Jerry movie. Absolutely abysmal. But then it's written by two writers. I know one of them did Girls Trip, and the other one did, I think it was, they worked on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I'm like, okay, that kind of pulls me around. And when I did watch it, because I missed it when it came out in theaters, when I did watch it, I was very surprised on how much I was actually enjoying it. And, you know, the movie doesn't kick in until about 20 minutes in. You know, it really doesn't. It kind of gives you a little bit of information here and there, but it really doesn't kick in until 20 minutes in. And it's a movie that goes like, hey, look, we're just having a good time here. You know, no one's there. The stakes aren't really all that high, because you notice, like, you realize on the surface, you're just like, all right, it's a goofy, fun, like, you know, parody, but also like saying like, yeah, this is kind of stupid. And it knows it is. It knows it is, and it's playing up against that. So it's fun in that regard. Much like what I brought up with, you know, like Cocaine Bear, this is a fun party movie. So I think if I watch this again, it'll probably be a party movie, because I had a fun time watching it. And I was caught off guard a couple times with the jokes, because the characters were constantly saying something, and it kind of made me want to go back to rewind it to see what lines I missed, because they constantly were throwing stuff out. And it was fun. It's a fun, stupid, you know, comedy movie that plays against the horror tropes, and it's fun. Number 10, speaking of horror, a movie that I was completely shocked was really good, especially in a series like this. That movie is
This is not retribution. It's a reawakening. Live or die. The choice is yours.
Saw X, a movie in this long-running series that I wasn't expecting to be as good as it was. This movie brought the series back into the light. I mean, yes, I would say the previous 3 films, so from 7, I would say the most recently good one, or the last good one that I liked was 6. Because 7 was just kind of like, really? Okay. Like, whatever. 8 was not very good. 9, which was Spiral, I liked the story, but it was very predictable. This was the same writers as the previous 2 films, as 8 and 9, but it was the same director as 6 and 7. So it was kind of going, okay, it's the same director as 6. Oh, wait, it's the same director as 7? Oh, okay. Then, you know, I'll have my expectations low. And then I watched it and I was like, wow, this was actually really good. And I think this one brought the series back to being good again. Because after a while, you know, I would say after the first 2, it kind of went like middle of the road. And then 6 brought it like a little bit back up. And then 7 just kind of started going a little bit downhill. And then 10 just shoots it right back up. And so I was like, awesome. That's just great. I love it. And, you know, this is an interesting series. You could look at it like, oh, it's just, I don't understand the torture porn thing. I don't understand that, why people are saying that. But, you know, you could say like, oh, it's just all about the gore. And yes, it is. You could look at that. But there's actually a story going on in all of these. It's very complex, and you almost have to go through it like it's an actual jigsaw puzzle. But there's something there. And this movie continues to do that. Now, the fact that this movie takes place between 1 and 2, and the fact that, not just Jigsaw, but also the character of Amanda, they look way older now. You kind of have to go with it, because if you don't, it's just like, okay, the movie's over. But I thought this was a surprisingly good movie, and they announced that they're doing another one. They're doing Saw 11, so maybe the series is back up. So we'll see. All right, number 9 is a movie that I was going to see anyway, and despite it being popular, and I was planning to see it anyway, and I did, and that movie is
Never going to tell the truth about what's happening here.
Oppenheimer. Now, the reason why it's not higher on the list is because the movie is a lot of talking. But when you look at it from the surface, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, and he loves his dialogue. The movie is a bit too long. I think, I kind of wanted to make a version of this where I cut out, some parts and then have like a SpongeBob time card over it saying 3 years later, and then boom, you jump to 3 years later. I think that would have worked, because there were parts where they were taking this literally week after week, and it's just okay. I understand why you're doing that, but can we get this going, please? Because the pacing is a bit slow, and this was 3 hours long, and I can manage a 3-hour movie if they are able to keep me interested, and if the pacing keeps picking up and doesn't slow down. This does slow down, so there's a lot of parts where I'm like, wow, this is really cool, interesting, and then other parts I'm just like, all right, I'll just kind of wake me up when they move on. And so, was this a really good movie? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to win big at the awards? Absolutely. But is it one of my favorite films of the year? Yes, but a little bit middle of the road. Like I said, it's number 9. So, yeah. But, I think overall the fact that they used no CGI at all was quite incredible. And I did see this in IMAX, and I'm actually very happy that I did, because it was really just gorgeous looking. It's so wide and expansive. So yeah, that was just incredible. And I keep trying to get a 4K of it, and it keeps selling out everywhere I go. So that sucks. But oh well. All right, number 8 is another sequel in a series, and this one I actually liked better than the previous film, which came out last year, and that movie is
You want me, so let's finish this.
Guys?
Scream 6. It's a shame what's going on with 7 right now. But at any rate, 6 I think was better than 5. It fixed a lot of the stuff that I did not like about 5. And It did get a little bit more brutal throughout the process. Yes, is the killer or killers. I'm not saying which one it is, but that person or those people's identities when they are revealed, or if that person's revealed, was it kind of predictable? Yes. It was kind of like, all right, I knew that. Like, I kind of knew that. So it was like there was no real shock there. It wasn't like the first movie, or in some cases 4, where it was like, oh wow, okay. So it was like I kind of guessed it. So yeah, but I did enjoy this one more than 5. I think with 5, I think they were trying to make a movie that not only would try to be a good movie and get audiences attached to the series again, but also to please the studio. And then now that they did that with 5, the studio kind of put more trust into them and said, like, okay, we've proven to ourselves that we can not only make a good movie, but also make the studio money. So let's try to keep this going. So now with Scream 6, they were able to do that and continue it. Now, just all the stuff going on with 7, where, Melissa got fired. Jenna quit due to scheduling conflicts. The director, Christopher Landon, dropped out because it wasn't going anywhere. And it's stuck right now. I think what they should do is, honestly, the studio should look at what they did and, try to fix it and try to salvage some stuff, and maybe wait a couple more years until everybody's schedule gets back on track, and then start to look at it again. But, that's just what I think. But number 7 is a movie that, yes, you can make fun of me for, and I actually haven't gotten made fun of before, but this movie was so surprisingly good that I was like, wow, okay, it was originally a movie where I just went, yeah, I don't really care to see that. And then I watched it, and I was like, wow, okay, that was pretty surprisingly good. And that movie is...
Even if nobody else sings along.
Humans only have one ending.
Get that Barbie!
Ideas live forever.
No, I won't let you do just one appendectomy.
But I'm a man.
But not a doctor.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
And I need a clicky pen?
No.
A sharp thing?
No.
There he is. Doctor!
Somebody get security.
Barbie. All right. Now, why this movie's not higher is it does kind of become cliche after a while. Where I was going like, I kind of can see where this is going to go. And while I think, the acting was really good, they do recognize that, like, yeah, we know we're being self-aware. We get it. There's still no explanation on a couple of things on the movie where I'm just like, okay, how did this happen? Like, especially from mainly how do you find basically the portal from, going to Barbie Land and the real world? Like, there's really no explanation. It's just, they just start traveling. And especially when they go back to Barbie Land from the real world, there really is no, like, oh, well, where's the portal? Where's a certain location? They don't explain it. So it's just like, oh, okay, we're just skimming past that. All right. But a huge surprise of the year. And, everyone got to see, Ryan Gosling, sing and dance, and probably try to perform at the Oscars. So very surprisingly good movie, especially a movie that I was looking at going like, this is either going to be a wow, that worked, or this is going to be a glorious disaster. And it was a wow, that worked. Like, it's very, very shocking. So I'm very surprised that this worked so well. And yeah, much like Oppenheimer, I think it's going to win big at the Oscars. So we'll see. So number 6 is a movie that not a lot of people saw, and that's mainly because it was on streaming only. And I think it absolutely should be watched. And that movie is No One Will Save You. This movie came out of nowhere. And it just came out of nowhere. Like, I remember just getting an alert on my phone about it, and I saw the trailer. I was like, wow, okay, I have to watch this. And I watched it, I think, a couple of days after it came out. I watched it just in a room. It was all dark. I had my headphones on, so it was like, because I'd heard that there was like little to no dialogue, and yeah, there was maybe 2 sentences said in this movie, and yeah, the sound design was great, even though it wasn't a whole lot. It was very much like Quiet Place. And yeah, this was a suspense movie. This movie kept me on edge the entire time. And wow, was it insane. And it just I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Like, I watched this movie with my father, and he and I were just glued, and we reactions were just coming at the same time, and yeah, it was just insane. And yeah, this was a super underrated movie this year. And then the fact that it came out on Hulu, and this is one of those movies, much like movie last year that was on Hulu, Prey. I would have loved to see this in the theaters, and it sucks that it didn't go to theaters. And yeah, just it was suspenseful. There were parts that I'm like, oh my god, and then parts that just were jaw-dropping. This was suspenseful. I mean, I said it like with Cobweb. If you're looking for a movie, if you're looking for a thriller that is keeping you on edge the entire time, and every 20 minutes you're watching the screen and going, what is going on? This is it. I think this is the one of the year. While Cobweb is more of just like a kind of psychological, this is more of just like a fantastical. And it's just insane. So that's why it's on the list. All right, the top 5. We made it to the top 5. Number 5 is a movie that once I saw it, I knew exactly it was going to be on my best of list. And that movie is...
Still been saying stuff.
You mean saying stuff? What if we opened the door but we didn't shut it? Oh my god, they followed us!
I like him.
They're not gonna stop. They're never gonna stop!
Talk to Me. Wow. So when I saw the movie, I was very surprised and very happy that it was really good. And the fact that it came from two guys who did YouTube for a living shows you that there are YouTubers that can make incredible things and creative things. Not everyone is Logan Paul, where even everybody wants him to go. You know, not everyone is that. There is actually real creation there. And this movie is a prime example on why, you know, a lot of YouTubers, I think, should be given the chance to do something like this. And I'm glad that this was able to do it. And this has honestly made a lot of like best horror movies of the year. But personally to me, while I think it's one of the best horror movies of the year, it's one of the best films of the year. Because they take a premise that has been done a lot, which is the possession thing. Whether it be ghostly or demonic or spiritually or whatever. But they take a twist with this and say, hey, what if we did it and it was kind of like an addiction? Let's treat it like it's an addiction, like it's a drug. And it's like, wow, that's actually, I've never seen that. I've never seen that done before. That's really cool and clever. And, you know, realizing like, yeah, you should probably kick your addiction because, you know, bad stuff happens. And the stakes definitely got higher as the more the movie kept going. And they're already planning a prequel and a sequel to this, which is great. So they're making this a trilogy. And this was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I just wish I could have saw it with a bigger crowd, because like the crowd I saw it with was maybe like 5 other people in the theater. Mainly because it was an A24 film, so it was very independent, so not a lot of people wanted to go see those independent films. And yeah, it's just, I wish I could have watched this with more people, but that was my only complaint. All right, number 4, another movie that I saw very last minute that I wanted to see for a while, and I finally watched it, and I'm really, really glad that I did, because just wow. Number 4 is
Who do you think you are? Really?
We are supposed to be the good guys.
We are.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, so when I saw Into the Spider-Verse, I saw that in theaters. I was like, wow, this is one of the best Spider-Man films in years. And then when they said, "Oh, we're making part 2," and I was kind of worried, and I know some other people were quite worried, and going like, man, how are they going to top the first film? And they basically pat us on the head and told us, hold their beer. And my God, they did it. They managed to take everything that was so great about the first movie and basically just up that to 11. It was just incredible on how great the story was, how incredibly detailed this thing is. And they throw all these like Easter eggs in there that I want to look back at it and try to point all of them out. And it was just insane. And it was just crazy. I love like the little like comedic moments. Like this was a constantly like rapid fire movie, and every time it was making me laugh. But then when the drama kicks in, it's like, oh, whoa, like, wow. This, I forgot, like, with the first movie, they weren't afraid to get this dark. And, yeah, I was enjoying every single minute of this, and I'm so glad that I watched it. I just am kicking myself that I did not see it in theaters. Because every time when I was like, okay, I'm going to go see it, something came around the corner. I'm like, nope. But I'm so glad that I watched it this year. And man, I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Yes, does it suck that it's not going to come out in 2024? Yes, but it gives them more time to give them time. And yeah, I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. So, number 3, this is going to be no surprise to a lot of people. I mean, especially since this is making it on a lot of best of lists. So, number 3 is
I want you to find your peace. But a good death only comes after a good life. You and I left a good life behind a long time ago, my friend.
Let's start together.
John Wick Chapter 4. This is not a big surprise, so not going to dive too much on it. Do I think they're going to make... I mean, they said that 5 is in pre-production, but, you know, the way that this ended was a good, conclusion to the series, especially to, John Wick's story. But, if we'll get part 5, I'll still check it out. But I think this is kind of this is a really great conclusion to the series, especially since they kept topping themselves every time. And then I think even Keanu said for interview, he was interviewing for 4 and said, I think we went too far. And it was there's just so much insane, crazy stuff in this that it's just okay, how are they going to top this? And it's I don't think they will. So it's kind of all right, I think this is a good cap off. But they make the action, they make the gun fu and the fighting look like art. I mean, with Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise is able to make the stunts look like art. Well, with this, Keanu Reeves is able, in the John Wick series, they're able to make all the fighting and the gun fu look like just a masterpiece, like you're watching a symphony as it's happening. And this was no exception. This was just incredible. This was the pinnacle of amazing action filmmaking. And is this the end of John Wick? Maybe, but we will see. But I very much enjoyed this movie, and that 3 hours, at times it did feel like 3 hours, but then they threw in a whole bunch of action, and you just kind of forgot about it. So I was like, all right, well, I'm good now. So, yeah, amazing, amazing film. All right, number 2, this is, if you watch my review for this, and if you know me as a person, this is going to come as no surprise at all. And that movie is...
Mom?
Mommy's with the maggots now.
Evil Dead Rise. Like I said, if you know me or if you see my review for this, this is not a shocker. I love Evil Dead, and I was so excited when they announced that they were doing another one. But then when they were announcing it, I had the butterflies in my stomach. I was going maybe this is not going to be too good. And then the trailer came out, and I was like, oh my God, this looks insane. I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, I was getting really giddy for it. And then as I was watching it, there were so many parts where I was getting so giddy about it. And yay. And the fact that this movie was so good, and it did so good, that they basically want to do a new Evil Dead film every, I think it was like 2, 3, 4 years. And I'm going, I'm not fighting that. I'm not fighting that. I will take more Evil Dead any day. You know, it might not be Ash anymore. It may not be Bruce. But I will take I'll take more Evil Dead any day. So I thoroughly enjoy this movie, from the gore, and I was really surprised on how much gore got past this. You know, especially since you go back and you watch, like, Evil Dead 1 and 2, those are unrated. And then when you look at this, it's just like, this is rated R? Whoa. Because I'm pretty sure they had to fight the MPAA and say, like, hey, this is an Evil Dead film. It needs to be this. It needs to be exactly like this. And I'm very happy for that. And I loved it. I thought it was awesome. And I can't wait to see what the series is going to do next. Now, my number one. Honestly, for a little bit, Evil Dead Rise was my number one. But you may think my number one is probably going to be like From the Cuffs of last year, where it was Everything Everywhere All at Once. You think it's going to be like a very independent or like artistic film. Nope. I was actually honestly fighting this movie for a little bit. But then at the end of the day, I had to give in because it's just so much fun. And that and without blah, blah, blah. Ugh, talk about a lot. But we're at the end here. But my number one best film of 2023 is...
We'll be ready.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so...
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
So you make plans that fail?
No.
He also plays the lute.
Not relevant.
Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. And I was fighting this movie. I knew exactly, like, once I saw this, I knew it was going to be in my best of. But as I was putting my lists together, I kept fighting it. I kept trying not to put it as number one. But I then had a moment of, like, reflection. I saw this movie 3 times in the theater. 3 times. Because every time when someone said, hey, you want to go see it? I'm like, oh, absolutely. Like, I'll drop anything and watch it. Because it was so much fun. And I'm a guy that's not really knows anything about Dungeons & Dragons. So when I first saw it, a lot of the references and a lot of things from it just flew over my head. So, like, there was, like, every once in a while, like, I was sitting there with my dad, who was a huge fan of Dungeons & Dragons. Every time when something came up, he would start laughing. And I'd be like, what are you laughing about? To then I was realizing, like, oh, it's actually, you know, something from the game. And something from the world. And it's just the fact that they were able to bring this franchise back. You know, especially, you know, Dungeons & Dragons has definitely been popular, especially in the last couple of years, thanks to Stranger Things bringing it back. But since that movie from the 2000s, it was just like, nope, this is not going to work as a movie. They proved us wrong by saying, like, hey, what if you're not being serious like that first movie was, and said, hey, let's actually have some fun with this. Let's be over the top, because it's based on a Dungeons & Dragons, which is a role-playing game. a lot of players do take these things very over the top. So let's say, hey, let's just do that. And it works. And it also works that the, action is fun. The stakes are kind of high, but it's more of this is just a fun movie. It's a fun movie. And like I said, I kept fighting for this not to be number one. But at the end of the day, when I realized, I'm like, dude, I saw it 3 times in the theaters. And I kept, telling people, numerous people saying, you gotta watch this movie. That pretty much just sold it. And I had to stop fighting it. And yes, it is my number 1 film of the year. So that is my best of and my worst of. So, now I'm probably just going to stop talking for, a couple weeks. But that is it. So I want to thank you so much. If you stuck with this since the beginning of the year, just thank you so much. And look forward to more stuff coming in 2024. And thank you so much for listening.